Did you know that the famous carbonated drink Pepsi was invented by a pharmacist in the small town of New Bern, North Carolina? In fact, the drink was first called Brad's drink, named after the inventor, Caleb Bradham. The original drink was crafted with a mix of sugar, water, caramel, lemon oil, cola nuts, nutmeg, and other additives. Later, it became Pepsi-Cola before minimizing to only Pepsi. In today's video, we will talk about Pepsi and we'll discuss its history, how it started, and what challenges it has faced up to now. Well, Caleb Bradham, a pharmacist from New Bern, North Carolina, is credited with developing the initial recipe for what would later be known as Pepsi-Cola in the year 1893. He had a soda fountain in his drugstore, much like a lot of other pharmacists did at the time, and he sold cocktails that he had manufactured all on his own. The drink that he termed Brad's drink was a sweet cola-flavored carbonated beverage. Pepsi-Cola was ultimately chosen as the brand name for the beverage when Caleb Bradham realized that the drink needed a catchier label as its popularity grew. By the summer of 1903, he had successfully registered the name as a trademark and was already distributing his soda syrup to pharmacies and other retailers around the state of North Carolina. In the year 1903, Bradham relocated the process of bottling Pepsi from his pharmacy to a warehouse that he rented. During that period of time, Bradham sold a total of 7,968 gallons of syrup. The next year, Pepsi was packaged in bottles of 6 ounces, which led to an increase in sales to 19,848 gallons. By the time that the year 1910 came to a close, franchisors were selling Pepsi in a total of 24 states. In the beginning, Pepsi was advertised to customers as a digestive aid, and the company used the slogan exhilarating, invigorating, aids digestion to attract customer attention. But as the brand continued to thrive, the firm decided to reverse strategies and instead focus on using the influence of celebrities in order to promote Pepsi. Pepsi made Barney Oldfield, a well-known racing driver of the time, one of its first paid spokespersons in 1913. Because of his phrases, he rose to fame. Drink Pepsi-Cola. It will fulfill all of your needs. In the next decades, businesses will continue to utilize celebrities as a means of appealing to customers. Caleb Bradham eventually failed to keep his hold on the Pepsi-Cola company. Despite his many years of success, Caleb Bradham was left with an inventory of sugar that was priced too high because he bet on the swings in sugar prices that occurred during World War I. He believed that sugar prices would continue to climb, but instead they decreased, leaving Caleb Bradham with an expensive sugar supply. That's why Pepsi-Cola went bankrupt in 1923. The Pepsi-Cola company was finally acquired by the Loft Candy Company in 1931, after having been owned by a number of different investors. During the worst of the Great Depression, Pepsi's president, Charles G. Guth, battled against all odds to turn the company into a profitable venture. At one time, Loft made an offer to sell Pepsi to officials at Coca-Cola, but they declined to make a bid for the company. Guth reformulated Pepsi and began selling it in 12-ounce bottles for just 5 cents. This was twice as much as what Coca-Cola gave in its 6-ounce bottles at the time. Because of this, Pepsi won an unexpected hit when its cent-nickel radio jingle became the first to be broadcast coast to coast. The company promoted Pepsi as offering twice as much for a nickel, and the jingle helped the company achieve this. In the end, it was recorded in 55 different languages and was successful to the extent that Advertising Age recognized it as one of the most successful advertisements of the 20th century. Pepsi made certain that it had a steady supply of sugar available during World War II, and as a result, the beverage became recognizable to American troops serving in conflicts all over the world. In the years that followed the war, long after the American guests had returned home, the brand would continue to exist. Pepsi welcomed the post-war era when it returned to the United States. During the 1950s, actress Joan Crawford was married to the company's president, Al Steele, and she regularly promoted Pepsi at business events and during trips to local bottlers. By the early 1960s, businesses such as Pepsi had already focused their attention on the baby boomer generation. Following the launch of the company's first diet soda in 1964, which was also marketed at younger people. The first advertisements appealing to young people, termed the Pepsi generation, were released. The firm was going through a variety of transitions at the time. In 1964, Pepsi made the purchase of the Mountain Dew brand. In the following year, the company merged with the snack manufacturer Frito-Lay. The Pepsi brand was rapidly expanding in popularity. By the 1970s, a brand that had previously failed was posing a serious challenge to Coca-Cola's position as the most popular soft drink brand in the United States. Pepsi even made news throughout the world in 1974, when it created history by being the first product made in the United States to be manufactured and marketed in the Soviet Union. Throughout the late 1970s and early 1980s, advertisements for Pepsi generation continued to target younger drinkers in an effort to appeal to them. At the same time, though, Pepsi challenge advertising and in-store samples were directed toward an older audience. In 1984, Pepsi made history by selecting Michael Jackson, who at the time was riding high on the popularity of his album Thriller, to be the company's spokesperson. Pepsi also went on to hire a number of well-known musicians, celebrities, and other notable people throughout the decade, including Tina Turner, Joe Montana, Michael J. Fox, and Geraldine Ferraro. The TV commercials were such a hit that they rivaled the elaborate music videos that Michael Jackson had created. According to Consumer Reports, during the 1970s, competition in the market continued to increase its level of intensity. The Pepsi Challenge was a series of blind taste tests that were carried out by Pepsi at various retail locations. According to the results of these taste tests, a greater number of people favored the flavor of Pepsi over that of Coca-Cola. Pepsi noticed an uptick in sales and decided to launch a nationwide competition under the slogan Challenge at the same time. These confrontations came to be known as the Cola Wars. The Coca-Cola Company altered their recipe in 1985, which resulted in a great deal of media attention. The new Coke, as the reformulated soft drink became known, has been speculated to have been created in direct reaction to the Pepsi Challenge. However, in response to negative feedback from customers, Coca-Cola swiftly reintroduced the original recipe under the brand name Coca-Cola Classic. But in 1992, Pepsi had its own product flop when the spin-off Crystal Pepsi failed to please Generation X customers. This was the company's first product failure, but again, it was terminated in a short time. Pepsi, much like its competitors, has significantly expanded its product line in ways that Caleb Bradham never could have imagined possible. Diet Pepsi, Pepsi-Cola without caffeine, Pepsi-Cola without corn syrup, Pepsi-Cola with cherry or vanilla flavoring, and even a Pepsi-Cola brand that dates back to 1893 and commemorates the company's roots are all available to customers today, in addition to the original Pepsi-Cola. With its Gatorade brand, the corporation has also entered the lucrative sports drink market, as well as the markets for bottled water produced by Aquafina, energy drinks produced by AMP, and coffee beverages produced by Starbucks. PepsiCo's primary goal at the beginning of the 21st century was to grow its business into other nations, particularly Russia, which was the company's second largest market. Last but not least, according to U.S. statistics, in the year 2022, PepsiCo's share of the market for carbonated soft drinks in the United States was 25.9%. That's all for today's video. Tell us your taste for Pepsi in the comments section below. Big Company Business will be back next week. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like, share, subscribe to our channel, and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss anything. Thank you very much for watching. See you in the next one.